This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a drama, fantasy, sci-fi film called After the Dark. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Early in the morning in Jakarta, James and Petra kiss passionately in bed before starting their day. He begs Petra to stay for a few more minutes, but she needs to go home and change her clothes. After Petra leaves, James stays in bed for a few moments before rushing to school. When he arrives, his philosophy teacher, Mr. Zimmett, is already closing the door, but James blocks it with his book just in time, so the teacher allows him to attend the class. When the class begins, the students express their doubts that the things that they've learned will be useful in real life. James points out that most people do well enough in life despite not knowing anything about philosophy. Zimmett argues that his students are not like most people. He contends that they have the chance to sort out the world's problems because they've spent the past year conducting thought experiments to strengthen their minds. After the students recount their favorite thought experiments, Zimmett announces that they'll go through one final exercise before they graduate. Zimmett instructs the students to imagine themselves as a group of people trying to survive an apocalyptic event. The exercise begins with several atomic bombs exploding while the class is on a field trip in Prambanan, a temple complex on the island of Java. Zimmett discloses that the class can take shelter in a bunker. However, the bunker is built for 10 people, while there are 21 of them. James suggests that they can share beds and supplies, but Zimmett notes that there's only enough oxygen to last a group of 10 people for 1 year. They'll die of hypoxia if they insist on filling the bunker beyond its capacity. After inspecting the facility, the group goes back outside and witnesses mushroom clouds forming in the distance. Since there are limited slots in the bunker, Zimmett tells his students that they'll have to decide who can go in. Petra doesn't like the idea of choosing who gets to live and who dies, so she attempts to leave the class. Zimmett convinces her to stay by noting that she could be the first student to earn an A+ in a philosophy class. When that fails, Zimmett tells Petra that he'll reduce each student's grades if she leaves. Petra goes back to her seat, realizing that James could fail the class if Zimmett goes through with his threat. Not long after, Zimmett instructs his students to pick a random card from a box. The cards will indicate their profession, which will help the others decide if they're worthy of entering the bunker. After James picks his card, Zimmett starts coughing profusely and walks back to his table. Zimmett does the same thing after Petra picks her card. Afterward, the other students pick their cards without any interruptions. Soon, the students announce the profession indicated in their cards. When Toby announces that he's a published poet, Zimmett shoots him dead. He explains that no one would vote to let him in the bunker because his skill set is useless. While the cards define their skill sets, Zimmett notes that their characteristics in real life will remain the same in the experiment. When Petra asks Zimmett about his role in the exercise, he discloses that he is the wild card who possesses an undisclosed skill set. A while later, the students vote for the people who can enter the bunker, based on who can help them rebuild society. The students pick Georgina, an orthopedic surgeon, Chips, a carpenter, Andy, an electrician, Homicide, a US Senator, James, an organic farmer, Jack, a chemist, Poppy, a psychotherapist, Petra, a structural engineer, and Bonnie, a soldier. For the last slot, the students are asked to choose between Utami, an opera singer, and Zimmett. Petra contends that picking Zimmett is too risky because they don't know his skill set, but Jack argues that the group can survive without an opera singer. The students give the last slot to Zimmett because they think that his secret skill set will increase their chances of survival. Before entering the bunker, James tells the students to take some time to be alone because they'll be locked inside the bunker for a year. A few minutes later, James and Petra hear gunshots nearby. When they reach the origin of the gunshots, the group discovers that Zimmett has shot the students who were voted out. Zimmett claims that the students asked him to do it because they didn't want to die from radiation poisoning. Fearing that Zimmett will turn on them, Petra tells James that he doesn't want Zimmett to be with them in the bunker. James tells the other students to gather plants for his hydroponic garden, and he also secretly tells them to go ahead in the bunker without Zimmett. Not long after, Zimmett realizes that the students have left him behind. The bunker hasn't been sealed when he reaches the entrance, but James locks him out when he tries to go in. That night, Petra goes to the entrance and opens the inner door to see if Zimmett is still outside. Behind the glass doors, she sees Zimmett, who's already sick from the radiation, hold up a note claiming that he's the only one who knows the exit code. When Petra tells the group about the exit code, some doubt whether they need it to get out. Georgina thinks that Zimmett is just taunting them because he knows that the idea of not being able to get out would bother the group for the next 12 months, but she soon realizes that it might be Zimmett's way of getting even with them for locking him out. Since they can't open the door due to the radiation, Andy remarks that they'll have to wait 364 more days if a code is required to leave the bunker. After 1 year, James tries to open the door, but the panel asks him for an exit code. The group tries various ways to break the door, but they soon realize that it's shatterproof. Soon, the group runs out of food and supplies. When Andy dies of an aneurysm, the group reluctantly eats his remains to survive. Weeks later, a few of them ask for help to end their lives because they couldn't bear the things that they've done. Not long after, the rest of the group dies because they've depleted their oxygen supply. After the exercise, Zimmett reveals that he was the only one who knew the exit code because he built the bunker. In the next iteration of the thought experiment, Zimmett reveals that their cards have an additional detail that will help them choose who should go inside the bunker. After checking his card, James learns that he's gay. Zimmett notes that James could be voted out since the bunkers worldwide must produce at least one healthy baby during their confinement. However, James points out that he can still get a girl pregnant despite being gay, so they pick him to go into the bunker. Georgina's card reveals that she was exposed to the Ebola virus during her trip to Uganda, so the students decide to vote her out because she could kill the entire group if she's infected. The students then pick a hedge fund manager named Plum, because she carries $5 million worth of gold and other precious metals due to her fear of the apocalypse. Chips finds out that he's sterile, but the group still picks him because his skills are required to build new infrastructure. Petra's card reveals that she's also an electrical engineer, so she maintains her position in the bunker. Andy reveals that he has a progressive bone disease that will eventually render him immobile, so the group votes him out since Petra can fill in for him. Poppy is also voted out because her uterus was removed due to the threat of ovarian cancer. Cavi, who got the role of a real estate agent, is voted to go in because he also works as a midwife. Amiseed and Bonnie maintain their slots in the bunker because the additional details do not pose risk to the group's survival. The group also votes for Nelson, a housekeeper, after Amiseed convinces them that they need more working-class people to survive. As Toby attempts to disclose the additional detail on his card, Zimmett suddenly shoots him in the head. Zimmett claims that Toby's slot belongs to him. Some group members agree because he's still the only one who knows the exit code. Students who are not chosen try to escape on a truck, but an atomic blast kills them. That night, Petra notices that James is not in bed, so she looks for him. Upon reaching the bunker's retreat space, she finds James making love to Jack. James sees her and stops to apologize, but Petra is too upset to talk to him. When Bonnie asks her why she's upset, Petra is forced to disclose that she found James and Jack in bed together. Plum points out that Petra could still bear James's baby, but James says he feels uncomfortable sleeping with a girl. Kavi points out that they have to start procreating soon, so the heterosexual members of the group choose their partners. Since James is a homosexual in the exercise, Kavi notes that the only viable partner for Petra is Zimmett. Not long after, Petra takes Zimmett by the hand and leads him to the bed in the retreat space. James follows them to tell Petra that he still loves her even though he doesn't want to make love to her. No women get pregnant after 10 weeks of intensive bedroom rodeo action, so Zimmett suggests changing their arrangements. The girl should have multiple partners and all men should contribute. However, Bonnie expresses her aversion to being forced to sleep with someone she dislikes, so she tells Zimmett that she'll kill him if he compels her to do anything that she doesn't want to. Zimmett leaves the room and comes back with a firearm. He forces everyone but Bonnie to leave the room at gunpoint. All students comply except for Jack, who hides in a corner. While pointing the gun at Bonnie, Zimmett tells her that they can't afford to debate about her feelings when their extinction is on the line. Bonnie dares Zimmett to shoot her after defiantly stressing that she'll keep saying what she wants. Jack emerges from hiding to tackle Zimmett. Bonnie immediately grabs Zimmett's pistol when he drops it. The other students helplessly watch from the window as Zimmett and Jack struggle to subdue each other. Eventually, Zimmett gains the upper hand and strangles Jack, but Jack manages to stab him in the ear with a pencil. When Zimmett gets up, he heads to the bunker's entrance. After observing the destruction outside for a few moments, he enters the code on the panel to open the door. Fire immediately rushes into the bunker, killing everyone, and concludes the exercise. Back in the classroom, James asks Zimmett why he had a coughing fit after he and Petra picked their cards. Zimmett can't come up with a persuasive response, so James runs to his table to grab the box holding the cards. When he looks inside, James discovers that the box has a hidden compartment containing multiple cards for an organic farmer and another compartment containing cards for a structural engineer. He concludes that Zimmett made him take a card first so that he would be a gay organic farmer no matter which card that he picked. Zimmett then switched the compartment to ensure that Petra would be a structural engineer. Zimmett claims that he rigged the cards to make James see that he's being held back by privilege and good luck. James thinks that Zimmett did it because he has a vendetta against him. James and Petra request to do another iteration of the exercise. Zimmett agrees, but this time he turns James into a gay florist instead of a farmer. The next iteration takes the group to an island. As soon as they arrive, Zimmett runs to the bunker's armory. He then puts a handgun in his bag and hides a rifle behind a machine. Later on, Petra approaches Zimmett while he's relaxing outside and offers to hug him. When Zimmett asks why, Petra explains that she knows how hard it's been for him. Then, she reveals that she will make some changes that Zimmett won't like. Later, Petra asks the students to trust her with the vetting process for admissions to the bunker. When the students agree, Petra picks several students who were turned down previously. Petra picks Mitzi, a wine auctioneer with an IQ of 200, Beatrice, a fashion designer, and Todd, who is also a champion poker player apart from being a published poet. Zimmet then discloses that he's cutting down Petra's grades because of her poor choices. Zimmet threatens to bring Petra's grades down even further when she chooses Russell, a harpist with autism, Georgina, who might be infected with Ebola, and Utami, the opera singer who was diagnosed with throat cancer. Other members of the new group include Jack and a gelato maker named Parker. Zimmet is exasperated when Petra picks James, so he looks for his gun to force the new group to exit the bunker. However, he discovers that the firearm is missing, and when he looks in his bag, he immediately realizes that Petra had taken it when she hugged him earlier. Petra gives him back the gun, but the clip is empty. She then gives Zimmet 2 bullets and advises him to put them away to use them when he needs them. As soon as Zimmet takes the bullets, James points the rifle at him and asks him to leave. Zimmet points out that they don't have the exit code, but Bonnie reveals that she memorized it when he entered the code in the last iteration. After Zimmet leaves, Petra notes that she won't go inside the bunker, so she picks Bonnie for the last spot. However, Bonnie refuses to allow Petra to sacrifice herself, so Petra chooses Chips instead. Petra intends to escape with the remaining members on a boat, but Chips has the key. When she approaches Chips to get the keys, Chips pulls her into the bunker. Chips quickly pushes the button to shut the doors, but he gets out of the bunker before the doors can close. The group outside the bunker soon leaves on the boat to avoid the atomic bombs. As the days pass inside the bunker, Petra and the others entertain themselves by playing poker, performing Shakespeare's plays, and reciting poetry. With spare parts from the engine room, Petra builds a harp for Russell to play while Utami sings. After a year, the group leaves the bunker and realizes that the atomic bombs never reached the island. Back in the classroom, Zimmet predicts that the group won't get back to Jakarta to rebuild society because they don't have the necessary skills. Zimmet contends that they will just die on the island. Petra agrees that they won't survive, but they don't mind because they've accepted that death is inevitable. Soon, an atomic bomb lands on the island but doesn't detonate. When James attempts to detonate it, Zimmet fires a warning shot to stop him. Zimmet survived by hiding in a cave to avoid the radiation. He soon realized that the bombs never affected the island when he heard the group emerge from the bunker. Zimmet threatens to shoot James with his last bullet, but the group lines up to protect him. James detonates the atomic bomb to end their lives. Back in the classroom, Jack surmises that Chips left the bunker to be with the love of his life. However, Chips explains that he has a different reason. He ran a thought experiment of his own. In his exercise, they found another uninhabited island, but he ends up being the only man among the group because the other men perished in separate accidents. Despite being sterile, Chips pulled the ultimate baller move because the 6 remaining women were willing to sleep with him because he was their only chance of getting pregnant. The students leave the class, but Petra stays behind to comfort Zimmet for picking on James. She points out that punishing James was not wise, because he doesn't know anything about her secret relationship with Zimmet. Petra tells Zimmet to leave James alone because she loves him. However, Zimmet is jealous of James because he thinks that he's not intelligent enough for Petra. Zimmet the simp pleads with Petra to remain in Jakarta with him after graduation, but she tells him it can't happen. When Petra leaves, Zimmet goes to his office and opens a drawer where his gun is. A few moments later, a gunshot rings throughout the university.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.